The CDC and the FDA are calling for an immediate halt on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine following concerns of severe blood clotting. Thanks for joining us on Newswatch 12 at 4. I'm Brian Morton.
And I'm Alicia Rubin. 6 people have developed a severe and rare type of blood clot about 2 weeks after they received that single-shot vaccine. The CDC will convene a meeting of the advisory committee tomorrow morning to figure out how to move forward. In the meantime, they're recommending healthcare providers stop administering the vaccine out of an abundance of caution. The CDC and the FDA says they are currently reviewing data for all 6 cases, all of which occurred in women between 18 and 48 years old. Symptoms started to show between 6 to 13 days after they received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The CDC and FDA said COVID-19 vaccination safety continues to be a top priority, and they take all reports of adverse effects seriously. Johnson & Johnson released a statement this morning as well, saying in part, quote, "The safety and well-being of the people who use our products is our #1 priority. At present, no clear causal relationship has been established between these rare events and the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine. We continue to work closely with experts and regulators to assess the data and support the open communication of this information to healthcare professionals and the public." More than 6.8 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine have been administered in the U.S. Anyone who recently received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and developed severe headache, abdominal pain, leg pain, or shortness of breath within 3 weeks should contact their healthcare provider immediately. Healthcare providers are urged to report any adverse events to the vaccine reporting system. Meanwhile, the OHA has asked all of the state's vaccine providers to immediately stop administering the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Following today's recommendations from the FDA and the CDC, Walgreens put a pause on the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, saying in part, "We are immediately suspending the administration of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine at our stores and off-site clinics and are awaiting further guidance. We are reaching out to patients with scheduled appointments and rescheduling vaccinations from other manufacturers. We'll continue to work closely with the FDA and the CDC. As always, the health and safety of our patients and customers is our highest priority." Now, taking a look locally to see how the halt of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is impacting Jackson County and how many residents have received a dose already. Joining us now, Jackson County Medical Director Dr. Jim Shames. Thanks very much for being here.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Brian.
So, do you know approximately how many people in Jackson County have received Johnson & Johnson so far?
I don't know that number. It's certainly way less than what we've seen for Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. We were hoping to utilize it more because of its convenience, but the numbers have been fairly small and fairly localized in this county.
When you see this number of cases over the millions that have been administered, how concerned are you about the overall safety of this vaccine?
The fact that the experts decided to make a pause like this obviously gives me concern. They're watching very closely, and I think it's a good example of how the system works. Everyone is wanting these vaccines to be safe, and as soon as they notice anything in terms of data that they collect that makes them concerned, they're going to put a pause on vaccine administration until they can be sure that they know exactly what's going on.
This does sort of coincide with the reduction in the number of Johnson & Johnson doses that were available for a separate issue. What adjustments is the county making to try and keep the momentum going of vaccinations in place, and should people be concerned about the other vaccines they're receiving?
Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca, the vaccines that there have been some concerns with, are a completely different platform than the mRNA vaccines Pfizer and Moderna are using, and there have been no concerns like this with the mRNA vaccines. And unfortunately, we have not been getting the amount of Johnson & Johnson we were expecting. So we're really quite geared up right now to utilize Pfizer and Moderna to a maximum extent. I think we're still going to be able to get shots in arms and do it safely.
When you look at the numbers you would like to hit to try and get people vaccinated, can you get enough Pfizer and Moderna to make up for what you would normally have used the Johnson & Johnson for?
We're hoping that's the case. As you know, we have a new event at the Expo being spearheaded by the federal government and FEMA, and they're going to bring their own vaccine, hoping to vaccinate 1,000 people a day, 7 days a week for 2 full months. So if you add that on top of what we're expecting to get, I think we're going to be okay.
When you look at the numbers of people who have come down with this rare clotting disorder associated with Johnson & Johnson vaccine, is that number substantially larger than they would have been had they not taken the vaccine?
That's the question. You know, that's the kind of data that needs to be analyzed by the CDC. We've been aware of blood clots and other possible concerns that didn't seem to pan out for exactly the reason you mentioned. Although they were serious disorders, they're the things that occur in any population when you start looking at tens of millions of people. These blood clots are very rare, and so the fact that they've popped up, 6 of them now out of almost 7 million doses, even though those numbers are very small, they're certainly worth looking at.
Dr. Jim James, Jackson County Medical Director, as always, we appreciate your expertise and your time. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks.